That's how I think of the domain is what belongs to me, what I'm responsible for, and what I have a right to, and those are the same things fall in both of those categories.
Welcome to the Do You Feel Heard podcast, a production of Helping the Herd. Helping the Herd is committed to empowering individuals to liberate themselves from the patterns that keep them from creating their ideal life. If you like this podcast, visit helpingtheherd.com to find resources and personalized coaching to empower you to be your best self. Welcome, everyone, to the Do You Feel Heard podcast. I am your host, Ian Michael, and I have a extremely exciting episode today. Today, our guest is Betty Martin, the author of The Art of Giving and Receiving, the pioneer in my life of this reframe of consent and how I look at how I interact with others and what my yes means, what my no means. So excited to have you here, Betty. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's good to be here.
Absolutely. So let's jump right in. For those who are unfamiliar with the Wheel of Consent or domain or your book or all the School of Consent, all the amazing things that you're doing. For those that don't know, can you share a little bit, just a brief description of like what this is and the work that you've done and, yeah,
Yeah,
anything you want people to know about you
sure,
from the beginning?
sure. How long we got?
We've got as long as you want.
The wheel of consent is a practice in taking apart receiving and giving. In other words, it's a practice in taking turns. And in particular, we use it mostly in the realm of touch, but it can also be played without touch. But when you take turns, receiving and giving, you find out, well, one thing is you find out what receiving is, because when it's your turn, you're not giving anything back. You're not trying to buffer your vulnerable feeling of receiving by trying to give something back at the same time. So you find out, oh my gosh, and it breaks your heart open
Mm,
and you learn a lot of things about yourself. And likewise, when it's your turn to give, you take what you want, put it on the shelf. So you're not trying to get something back at the same time. So it's all about what the other person wants within your boundaries, of course. Um, so it's a practice in taking, receiving, giving apart. And and you have experiences that are possible no other way.
mm,
There are experiences you can have when you're receiving this gift that are available no other way. And so that's what the wheel is. And in particular, there's a couple of different ways to receive and give, which this kind of, for a lot of people, this kind of goes, what's going on here? And that is, I can give you the touch that you request. Maybe you want a shoulder rub or your head scratched or your feet rubbed or something. I can give you that action. I'm giving you my action. I can also, in another kind of gift, give you access to me. You want to play with my hair, you want to feel my legs, you want to explore my hands, and I'm giving you that gift of access to me. You're doing what you want, not what I want. In the first one, I was doing what you wanted. In the second one, I'm allowing myself to be done to the way that you want. So that's also a gift, different kind
mhm,
of gift. So when you play with the wheel of consent, you end up with 4 different rounds of the game. It came from a game called the 3-minute game, which I learned in a workshop a long time ago. It was developed by a man named Harry Faddis. And the 3-minute game is 2 people, 2 questions, taking turns. The 2 questions are, how do you want me to touch you for 3 minutes? Oh, well, I can think of some fun things I might like you to do to me for 3 minutes. And so we negotiate and do that, and then I ask you the same thing. So there's and the second question is, what do you want to do to me for 3 minutes? Well, now that's a different question, very different question. And for a lot of people, that question is kind of like, "What? I can't even figure out what it means." Because, it's a very simple question. It may be unusual, you've probably never been asked before, but it's very simple. It's, "What do you want to do to me?" or "How do you want to touch me?" And it's not a question about, "Oh, well, I could do whatever you want." No, it's a question of, "What do I want to do to you?" That's a very different question. So when you play this 4 rounds, you end up with 4 different dynamics. One is, I do to you what you want, or I do to you what I want. And you do to me what I want, and you do to me what you want. So play that a few times, and you'll notice that, oh, wait a minute. In each of those things, I'm either doing or done to. That's pretty clear. And also in each of those things, it's either for me or for you. And those don't match up with who's doing.
Mhm.
So if it's for you, it's either I'm doing to you what you want, or you're doing to me what you want, not what I want, what you want. And so that creates these 4 quadrants, and you can see that. You'll have it linked on the diagram of the wheel. And when I first started playing with this years ago, I thought, oh, this is kind of cool. This is interesting. You could draw it out like this. And as I played with it more, I was working with clients doing experiential sex coaching and intimacy coaching. I noticed that it was hard for people, and people got confused. And I noticed that when we could get it, when it would click, and when we would really go into each of the quadrants, so much came up, so much was learned, so many ahas, so many, oh, this is hard, oh, this is easy, oh, this is fun, oh, this is scary, this is, wow, this feels really great, this doesn't feel so good. All kinds of different responses and experiences. And that taught me that, oh, we're dealing with something fundamental here. This is not just a little taking turns game of touch. We are tapping into something fundamental about human nature and human relationship. And once I realized that, which took me a while, then I really started diving in and seeing, okay, if we're in this particular dynamic, if we really stay in it and don't confuse ourselves with where we are, then we can go quite deep as far as the emotional experience, the physical experience. You can make it more than 3 minutes, of course. And so, yeah, it just showed me that we're dealing with something really fundamental here. And that was kind of a wake up, because I had no idea that's where we were going when I first started playing with it. I had no idea that that's where it would
Mhm.
take us. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you
So I
for
wrote a book, and I founded a school, and I taught other people how to teach it, and we have 50 people around the world teaching it. And we train practitioners. We have a 5-day training for practitioners, and you can find all this at the School of Consent, which you can link to. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely, we'll link that as
yeah.
well. Um, so let me write that down so I don't forget
Oh,
to do
yeah.
that. One question that came up was, like, what I heard you say was that you were, you discovered the 3-minute game at a facilitator, like a training. You were at some sort of a,
Was it a workshop? Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
a workshop learning this, and then you began sharing it with your clients.
Hmm.
Um, and then you made this connection that, oh, there's a lot more here,
Hmm.
that people are experiencing during this game. Is that something that you like, that was normal for you to be almost like, I don't know, digging underneath like
Yeah.
like the human condition, and what's your
Yeah.
history with that?
That's a great question. Is it normal for you? Yeah, pretty normal for me to look underneath and see, like, what's the real dynamic here?
Mhm.
Yeah, was it a it was at a workshop. This game was just a very small part of the workshop.
Mhm.
Um, but it was so fun. I took it home and played with it. Um, yeah, I've always been interested in what makes people tick because people are just fascinating. And in my what was it, mid-20s or something, I learned reevaluation counseling, peer counseling, or it's called co-counseling. And I learned that and taught it and have practiced it for 50 years now, which is basically taking turns listening to each other in a way that's helpful and supportive.
Hmm.
And um, I learned a lot about myself in those years, which just started out with, oh, wow, I have feelings. Well, what do I do with these things? And how do they work? And oh, shit, Um, and where do they come from? And why am I still mad at this person? And why am I still sad? So
Mhm.
um, that has been a lifelong journey. And other, modalities and things that have come up over the years have interested me. And then I was a chiropractor for 30 years. And there you're not dealing with people's emotions, of course, you're dealing with the structure of their spine but it affects their experience of their lives. So that was interesting. Um, in my mid 40s, I took a workshop with the Body Electric School for women on erotic experience and awakening. And that was a big aha for me. And I spent several years diving in there with some friends and colleagues and more workshops and stuff, discovering what is Eros
Mhm.
and what's it got to do with me and what's the source of my own, and discovering that, holy cow, it belongs to me. And the aha was so sharp that it made me wonder, well, who did I think it belonged to?
Hmm.
And I realized that, well, I grew up in the 50s and my eros belonged to everybody else, I guess, somebody else's idea of what I was supposed to look like, what I was supposed to want, what I was not supposed to want, what I was supposed to do, what I wasn't supposed to do, what was considered sexy, was not considered, all that stuff.
Mhm.
It's just handed to us by our culture and still is, of course.
Right.
Um, but when I realized, oh, wait a minute, this belongs to me and its source is my body. Holy cow, that was a big aha. And that was, years worth of exploring in that realm. And at some point, I decided I wanted to offer that to other people.
Mhm.
What I had learned, offered it to other people. And so that's when I opened my practice as a sacred intimate. And I would engage with people erotically and guide them into experiences that they support them to notice themselves and pay attention to themselves and have compassion for themselves and start to notice what they wanted and what they liked. And um so it was an experience of guiding and supporting people in their erotic discovery about themselves, and did that for 10, 15 years. It was a lot of fun. And it was in the middle of that I found the 3-minute game and developed the wheel of consent.
Yeah,
Um,
so what I'm hearing you say is that you were a chiropractor, and then from there you attended this body electric
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
How what drove you to was that like a personal
Yeah, that was
thing?
just personal. That
Just
was yeah.
personal.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And so
Yeah.
then that kind of
Yeah.
exposed you to something that was like, "Whoa,
Holy cow.
didn't even know
Yeah.
that this
Yeah,
was
I
a
had no
thing."
idea this was even
Yeah.
available.
And
Yeah.
so you mentioned eros.
Mhm.
For those that aren't familiar, I have some familiarity with it, but for those that are listening that don't know what that word means, what are you
Mm,
referring to when you say eros?
that's a great question. Eros is very often used as a way to avoid saying sex or sexuality,
Okay.
and I'm not using that the way here. Um, Eros, I think of as, well, it's kind of poetic. It's kind of the 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 life force, the energy that flows through us, that connects us to everything living. I mean, it's kind of it's not very well defined. Um, and it's much more it includes sexuality, but it's much more than sexuality. It's really more a feeling of, aliveness, of vitality. It can take many different moods and different kinds of feeling states. That's how I think of it. Another definition, which is by, Jack Moran, who wrote a book called The Erotic Mind, says that erotic is what we have in our minds that gives meaning and richness to our sexuality. So that's kind of another definition. But when I say discovered my eros, I was discovering my sexuality, yes, but it was it was much more than that. It's a much broader um, awareness than that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you for
yeah,
sharing that.
yeah.
My understanding, I don't know if you're familiar with Mark Gaffney,
Mm-mm.
an author, but he wrote a book called The Erotic and the Holy.
Mm,
And
sounds
the
fun.
it's really incredible book. Definitely recommend anyone who hasn't read it to go and check it out. But his explanations, it's almost like a combination of like prana, so like your life
Mhm.
source, like your vitality, that life source energy that we have, which has within it the masculine and the feminine,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
like sexual energy is creative energy, which is
mhm,
prana. It's
mhm,
all
mhm.
one.
Yeah,
And in our society, we like to separate everything is
yeah,
separate.
right.
Science here, math here, but everything is everything.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and so, but yeah, that was kind of my introduction to that word
Mm,
eros is,
mhm.
yes, it's eroticism, but it's not just about sex. Eroticism is
Right.
not just connected to sex.
Yeah,
Being
yeah,
erotic isn't
yeah,
sexy. It doesn't have to,
yeah,
be one and the same. And so, yeah, I really appreciate your description of that. And I hope that's helpful for anybody who isn't familiar with eros to, get them on the right direction to
yeah,
explore that for
yeah,
themselves.
yeah.
Um, so one thing that we had talked about wanting to get to is how this work, and it is work. I mean, it's work on yourself.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah,
work
yeah.
to shift how you move through the world and how you view the world and how you view your experience within the world. How does this work? How do you see this work applying, or you know, sorry, how do we write that? Beneficial. How is this
Mhm,
work? How could this benefit people now, given the landscape that we're all experiencing? Well, we're experiencing different landscapes,
mhm,
but we're all
mhm,
experiencing the landscape
mhm.
together. How do you see this work supporting or benefiting
Mm, that's a great
our
question.
humankind?
That's a great question. Well, because the practice takes 2 or more people, um, it's yeah, it's not something like, you can go meditate or do yoga yourself. It involves another person. And it's a practice of taking turns. So, if the only thing you get out of it is learning how to take turns,
Mm.
by golly, you have gotten something out of it. Because when you take turns, if you might have a partner or a friend or a practice buddy. Doesn't need to be a lover at all. In fact, it's probably better if it's not. Um, when we take turns, say you and I, we're gonna take turns here. If we take turns listening to each other, you talk for 10 minutes and then I'll listen, and then I'll talk for 10 minutes and you listen, then we have gained something. We've gained the opportunity to be heard and witnessed in our feelings and our thoughts. And, this is not a conversation. I mean, this is a conversation, but that is not a conversation.
Mhm.
It's not a conversation. It's you talk for 10 minutes and I will listen. And I will not give you advice. I will not, judge whether what you're saying is interesting or funny or whatever, just like, I'm just here to listen to you. And that listening is a huge gift. It's huge. And, um, yeah. And what I come out of it is, okay, now you've listened to me for 10 minutes. Now I have a better understanding of whatever it was that I was wrestling with.
Hmm.
And I can reevaluate whatever situation I was ranting about or wondering about or figuring out or thinking about or weeping about. I can now, oh, right, there's this aspect. I hadn't thought of that. Or, oh, now I understand what they were talking about. And I that no longer is painful to me. Or, yeah, now I really understand what's going on. I need to make some changes. So the by being listened to well, we come out of it with, "Oh, okay, I get it. This is what I can do." And multiply that over weeks and years,
Hmm.
you end up with a tremendous amount of personal growth in your own awareness of who you are and how you function and what your needs are and what they aren't and what you're responsible for and what you're not. And you heal some of those wounds of disregard and stuff that you've gotten before. So just the bare fact of taking turns is good for us. And I also learned something by giving you 10 minutes of listening as I'm learning about you, and you might say things that kind of spark something in me. That's fine, but that's I'm keeping that here because it's your turn.
Hmm.
Um, so just the fact of taking turns listening, and I think um, in the difficult times that we live in, um, that can be really supportive and helpful for people to. Well, it's been helpful for me, and I imagine it's helpful for other people um, to have that kind of support and listening.
Hmm.
So that's one kind of taking turns.
Which is already, I mean,
Yeah, it's
it's
huge.
huge.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's really simple. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's another kind of taking turns, which the wheel of consent was built on, which is touch. And again, you don't need to be lovers to do this. In fact, if you are lovers, keep the sex out of the game for a while. And we exchange 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever. So I ask you for a foot rub for 20 minutes. That's going to provide some very tangible nourishment and comfort and support for me. And just like being listened to, I can take that in. It's not about you. I don't have to worry about you. I'm not trying to give something back to you. I'm not trying to make sure that you know that I have a good time. It's just about me. And that is also huge.
Hmm.
Um, and when you try it, you'll find most likely that something about it nourishes you. Something about it also may challenge you because all your stuff will come up. I don't deserve this. What am I doing? I'm not a good enough person. Blah, blah, blah. Is this going to be, am I going to pay for this? Blah, 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 blah. All this stuff's going to come up. So that's why it's helpful to start in short turns, like 3 minutes or 5 minutes. Eventually you get to where, yeah, 2 minutes, 20 minutes, 2 hours. It's all great.
Hmm.
But, but that is a taking turns of touch. So that's also it provides some nourishment, some grounding, some comfort, some support, and some pleasure, which pleasure is a physiological process in the body that is important to us as mammals and by its very nature um, nourishes and supports us. So you get, maybe it's got such a good foot rub, and oh wait, go and dig right in there, or scratch over here, or I'm giving instructions, and so it's going to be just great. And having 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 20 minutes of something that's just great is so good for you, so
Hmm.
good for you. Um, and then of course, in the other way, you also learn how to give in a way that's you're not making it about you. It's just about them. Um, and in the other dynamic where I'm doing to you what I want, I may ask, well, may I run my hands through your hair for a while? May I explore your hand and feel your hand and arm? Or may I just hug on you and hold you for a while? And all those things are going to be nourishing. Um, yeah.
Love it.
So basically, I think I'm a real fan of taking turns, as you can tell. And just to be clear, I don't think all of life should be taking turns. Um, but but because there are times when we're just hanging out together and we're not taking turns, thankfully. But I have learned that taking turns sets the foundation for other aspects of a relationship. And in particular, the four dynamics of the 3-minute game
Hmm.
of the wheel of consent, um, they they show up in other aspects of life. And so we start playing this with the wheel of consent, and we take turns and we do this thing. And then we notice, oh, wait a minute, this same dynamic plays out in this other part of my life. I never noticed that before, but I see it now. And so you learn things about yourself and your other dynamics um, at the same time, and you'll have a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Fun is important. It is
Yeah,
important. It is
it's very
important
fun.
to,
Yeah,
yeah, to
yeah.
involve fun and play. Definitely agree. One thing that I wanted to segue into as you were talking about the example of like asking for a foot rub and like the rub being just for you. And so it's an
Mhm,
opportunity to fully receive and not be
mhm,
responsible for anything other than just being
mhm,
present and
mhm,
receiving the gift.
mhm, mhm.
But what a lot of people experience in that situation is our mind is,
Oh, yeah.
very active with, well, are they going to want one from me later? Am I going to owe something for this? Or
Mhm,
do I deserve this? Or, all these different
mhm,
stories that are ultimately very rarely focusing on just our domain,
mhm. Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
A lot of those concerns, those stories, those fears that are popping up are really about how others are going to feel or how what others are going
Mhm,
to want.
mhm.
And so I think that's a great segue to turn and talk a little bit about domain for those that aren't
Sure.
familiar with domain, because in my opinion and in my work and my practice, domain is paramount.
Yeah,
Domain is
yeah,
everything.
yeah, yeah.
It really is in every single interaction, whether you're aware of it or
Yeah,
not.
it is.
And it's if you don't understand where your domain ends and someone else's begins, it can really create a lot of suffering. And that's a lot of what I
Mhm,
see when I'm helping people is helping them bridge that gap
mhm,
and
mhm.
get out of other people's domains,
Yeah, yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
So if you
Sure.
if you'd like to share a little bit about domain and help people understand from the person who I learned it from, let others hear it directly from you as well.
Great. Yeah, I'll do that. I wanna go back and, say one more thing about the practice first,
Mhm,
and that is that for a lot of people, touch is conflated with sex.
mhm,
So, for a lot of people, if I'm touching you, suddenly it's about sex, or it's sex is gonna happen or supposed to happen or might happen or could happen or
mhm,
whatever. And touch is not about sex. They're two different human needs. But because they're conflated for many people, it's sometimes difficult to learn to touch that's not about sex.
mhm.
But I highly recommend it. And in fact, it'll make your touch better and it'll also make your sex better.
Agreed.
But I recommend that if you are a couple who's has a sexual relationship, that you can play the game in a sexy context and just have fun and see what happens. That's totally fine. If you really want to learn the depths of it, however, it's better to not engage in any sexual activity in the game for 20 or 30 times that you play it. Because when you bring sex into the game, their habits are strong, and you'll just go back and do the thing that you already know how to do, and you won't learn anything. So just a reminder that touch and sex are not the same, and that when you can separate them, they both get a lot better. And so, yeah, I just want to be clear about that.
It's a great disclaimer, and I
Yeah,
can affirm
yeah,
that in my
yeah,
experience as well.
yeah, yeah,
And every
yeah,
every client that I've ever facilitated the 3-minute game for,
yeah,
I've given that same advice. Keep sex out of it
yeah, yeah.
until because just being touched alone is going to bring things up. You're going to
Sure.
learn things. You're
Yeah,
going to be,
yeah,
have awarenesses of all sorts of different things alive in you while you're
yeah,
being touched. Your mind is,
yeah, yeah.
very active.
You're gonna go
A
places.
and so if you can't on top of that, like, I think it's good to talk about those things, right? Like, "Hey,
Mhm,
this is what came up for me," the afterward, right? The
mhm.
aftercare, the
Yeah, yeah,
recap after the touch is done. Let's talk about our
yeah,
experiences.
yeah.
And if you can't if you're not able at that time to be able to speak openly and safely about how you touched my arm,
Mhm.
imagine how difficult it's going to be to have
Yeah,
those conversations about sex, which is,
yeah,
riddled with
exactly.
trauma and,
Yeah, yeah,
expectations and
yeah.
all these things. And so I will absolutely affirm, don't keep it separate.
Yeah,
Keep it separate
yeah,
for a
yeah, keep it
while.
separate for us.
Learn how to move through the simpler,
Yeah,
iteration of that game before you add more, complex aspects to the game.
yeah, yeah. So domain.
Domain.
I have long been annoyed, just be honest here. I've long been annoyed at the word boundaries
Mm,
having so many different meanings depending on who's saying it. I mean, all words have multiple meanings, so
sure.
that's not a problem. But people would say, well, you need to have stronger boundaries or you need to let your boundaries down or blah, blah, blah. And so I noticed that the word boundaries had many different meanings to different people. And very often when they were arguing about them, they were using two different definitions. They were talking about two different things,
But the same word.
but using the same word.
So
And that happens for a lot of different things. um, I had a friend who had a wolf sanctuary. She took in wolves that had been captured or injured or born in captivity. And so she had these chain link fence large areas where the wolf families would be. And she had two or three or four different groupings. And the chain link fence, there was one wolf family on the one side of the fence and another wolf family on the other side of the fence. So they could see each other and they could smell each other. They knew each other were there, but it wasn't a problem because there was a fence there.
hmm,
And what she told me was interesting. She said, those wolves, they have a sense of responsibility for the area.
hmm,
And I don't think she called it a domain, but I call it a domain. That I think of it as don't think about the fences, think about the area of dirt that's inside the fence. That's the area that those wolves they feel they have a right to that area and they have a responsibility for that area and they will guard that area. In the wild, of course, they're separated by space, and in sanctuary, they were separated by fence. And so I started thinking, oh, that's interesting. This area of dirt here, that's what I have a responsibility for and I have a right to. And I started thinking of it in terms of my own person. Like, okay, what is it that I'm responsible for? And what is it that I have a right to? And those are the same those are the same things. I have a right to my body. I'm responsible for my body. I have a right to my thoughts, and I'm responsible for my thoughts. I have a right to my feelings. I can feel whatever I want to feel, even if it doesn't make sense to somebody else. And I have a responsibility for them. I don't get to blame them on anybody else. I have a right and a responsibility for my own desires. I don't I can want whatever I want. I don't get to have it, of course, but I get to want whatever I want. Even if you think it's weird, it's my desire, belongs to me. Thank you very much. I have a right and a responsibility. Oh, I have a responsibility for my desires. Trying to pretend that I don't have them is not going to work very well. I'm responsible and have a right to my limits. That is, by that I mean those things that I'm willing to participate in and those things that I'm not willing to participate in. I think I call that a limit. So I don't have a right to take any action I want, of course. But I am responsible for the actions that I do take. So when I started thinking about that, it started making more sense. Because I think of the boundary as the fence, but even that's, I mean, people, boundary, as I said, gets used for a lot of different things. So I just mostly don't use it anymore. But I think of domain, and it comes up in playing the 3-minute game like this. I'm asking you, okay, how do you want me to touch you? And you maybe, you ask for a foot rub every time. Well, this actually happened to me. So I'll just say it.
Perfect.
This happened to me. I had a partner that I was playing with regularly, and he asked me one time, how come when I ask for things, they're always sexy things, and when you ask for things, they're never sexy things? And of course, he had a right to feel that way, and it was fine for him to be curious. But it made me mad because I realized my desire belongs to me. It's none of your fucking business what I want. It's your business whether you are a yes to giving me that. That's in your domain. In my domain is what it is that I want. In your domain is your decision to say yes or no, or make a counteroffer. So that kind of really brought that up to me that, oh, wait a minute. I can also want him to want things. Like I want you to want XYZ, but it's not really in my domain. It's not in my business what you want. It's my business. Well, am I willing to give you that? Or am I interested in participating in that with you? That's in my domain, and that's my responsibility. Likewise, you've probably had people tell you that you should feel XYZ or you shouldn't feel XYZ. Nothing will make me angry faster than that. It's like, don't you tell me what I should feel. But of course, we influence each other. Of course we do. It would be a horrible world if we didn't. And I can do things that will increase the likelihood that you'll be angry, or it will increase the likelihood that you will have pleasure. But I can't actually create that in you. And even if, say, you do something makes me angry, maybe you did something really egregious and I should be angry and I am angry. Even so, my anger belongs to me. By golly, use it. Feel it, experience it, learn from it, put it to good use. It belongs to me, and you don't also get to take it away. You don't get to tell me that I don't get to feel it either, because it belongs to me. And I'm responsible for what I do with it. How I let it out or don't, in what situation I choose to let it out, in what situation I choose to use it in some way that's helpful or useful to me or to somebody. So again, even my feelings they belong to me and I'm responsible for them. Um, so yeah, that's how I think of the domain is what belongs to me, what I'm responsible for, and what I have a right to. And those are the same things fall in both of those categories. I'm curious how you have found it. Sounds like you have found it really useful for you.
Oh, it's every yeah, domain for me in my personal life as well as in my practice. It's paramount. It's the foundation upon which all interactions I think are framed. And something to keep in mind in all interactions. One thing that I really liked, you brought up the word should, and that's
Mhm.
one of my hot button words as well. And it's in my practice, it's what we refer to as a non-negotiable. It's something that
Mhm.
we're going to remove from our vocabulary because should has this implication of to do something else would be wrong,
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
right? This is the right thing to do, or this is what you ought to be
Yeah, yeah.
doing.
Yeah, yeah.
But the reality of the situation, of most situations, is there's an infinite number of things you could do,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
none of them are right or wrong,
Yeah.
except how one person might view it and how they
Mhm.
view it's in their domain. And so, yeah, the word should is definitely, yeah, it's also something, yeah, again, that
Yeah. Yeah.
we focus on heavily, in the
Yeah.
work,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean,
Yeah, one could say, "Well, I," instead of saying, "Well, you should do the dishes," if I'm taking responsibility for my feeling about you not doing the dishes, I can say, "I'm really pissed at you for
mhm.
not doing the dishes."
And that's valid.
That's
You're
valid.
entitled to feel
Yeah.
the way that you're
Yeah,
feeling, and
yeah, yeah.
as the non-dish doer, am not entitled to do anything about your
Yeah.
feelings.
Yeah.
Like, I can hear your feeling, I can validate and acknowledge, but I don't have to fix it. And
Mhm.
that's a big piece of the work that I support my clients with, is that fixer mentality of,
Mhm.
"Oh, they're upset. I gotta go do
I
this. I
gotta
have."
go do this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's that
Yeah.
immediate action response, which of course comes from childhood and relationships,
Yeah.
that's where it begins most of the time. But yeah, there's no, that work, which is, again, all a credit to you. This The thing I wanted to bring in your own tool here is it's good to want. It is
Yeah.
good to want.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I want you to do this. Great. Thanks for sharing. I'm so glad that you want that. But because you want it doesn't mean that I have to, like,
Yeah.
then am obligated to fulfill your wants, and you're not wrong for wanting it either. Like the example with that person of, like, why aren't your requests for touch more sexy? It's like,
Yeah.
well, that's great that you want that.
Yeah.
No
Mm,
problem with that.
yeah.
The want is in your domain. Want all that you want. But the expectation, that's where the should comes in, is
Mhm.
I'm expecting you to do what I want, or
Mhm.
I think that
Mhm.
you should do what I want. And that's where a lot of conflict comes in interpersonal dynamics, is that disconnect between, well, they should do that. I'm convinced, I believe that they
Mhm.
need to be doing this thing for whatever reasons our mind comes up with. And it kind of just glazes over the fact that they're an autonomous human being full of their
Mhm.
own wants and
Mhm.
desires and things
Mhm.
that they think people should or shouldn't do, and imposing those shoulds on others. It's just a recipe for disaster, and it does not embody their autonomy and their
Yeah.
agency.
Yeah. Well, then that brings up a good distinction between, um, "I want you to XYZ," and "Will you
Mm,
XYZ?" That's a
mhm,
very different statement. And in the wheel of consent, in the practice, we're using the "will you" and the "may I,"
mhm,
because I can say, "Well, I want you to blah de blah." Well, great. And you might jump up and do it. And
mhm,
if we're close, you probably will. And as well you maybe should, because we don't e- everything doesn't have to fit into this narrow practice of the wheel of consent.
mhm.
It's okay to be human in your life. I'll say that. But it's also helpful to learn the difference between "I want" and "will you."
Absolutely.
And
One's
when
a
I say
statement.
now, I say, "Now, will you do the dishes?" That's a very different dynamic that's
Hmm.
happening now,
Hmm.
because I've made clear that it's a request that I'm wanting you to do, and I would like a yes or a no or a something.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
distinguishing between a statement, this is something that I want.
Mhm,
Great. Or are you asking me to do something? Or
mhm.
is you making a request of me? If you're making a
Yeah,
request of
yeah,
me, now we get to bring consent into the game.
yeah,
Now I get
yeah,
to check in with myself. Am I
yeah,
available for this? Is this
yes,
something I have space to do? But
yeah,
when it's phrased as, well, I want you to do this, there's almost this like expectation,
mhm,
this like weird tension of like,
yeah,
okay, do
yeah,
I have to do that? Or like, how
yeah,
do I respond to that? And
yeah,
so, yeah, consent
yeah,
again, it's such a great,
yeah.
it
Well,
improves all dynamics.
yeah, I also wanna say in our real lives, people have a full range of different ways that they prefer to communicate and prefer to be supportive and helpful to each
Mhm,
other, and thank God that thank God we don't have to always be this strict,
mm,
and we do get to contribute to each other's ease and joy and happiness and pleasure, thank God.
mhm,
And so, um, uh, don't go away from here thinking that I'm saying that you have to always ask this way and you have to always do it this way, and no, 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 no. We have lots of ways. People have lots of ways, and couples and families have lots of ways that work for them. What I have noticed in working with couples is that there are often times when you may think it's working, but it's not really working very well
mhm,
because one person is holding back, being resentful. Um, I think all of us have places in our lives where we give too much or we overperform or we just give, 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 give. Maybe because we don't know how else to do it, or we don't know how else to connect, or we think it would get us some love somehow in the end, or we don't somehow feel that we deserve to be helped or supported, or all kinds of reasons why we give, 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 give. But to the degree that I give, 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 then at some point I'm going to get resentful, and I'm either going to dry up or I'm going to blow up,
mhm,
and that's not going to be helpful. So on the one hand, in the practice of the 3-minute game, you'll learn that your no is respected, and you'll learn that your limits are respected. I can do this, but not this. You'll learn to say no, and you'll learn that your no is respected. And then you'll look at your life and you say, "Oh, I've been afraid to say no in this area.
mhm.
I need to clean that up because it's not true and it's not fair. And I'm getting resentful about it. So I need to clean that up." Um, and it's because while doing the practice, you have developed the muscle of saying no. And you'll also find that when you learn to say no, you become more generous
Mhm.
because now you're not afraid that you'll be stuck in giving too much. And so, oh, I can trust myself to say no when it's too much. So therefore, oh yeah, have at it. Listen, yeah, I'm happy to give this because I trust myself to say no when I need to. And you become much more joyous and generous.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think also a thing to add on to that is in that scenario of, when you're playing the game and you learn that your no is respected, and so you feel empowered to, expand on that in other dynamics with other
Mhm,
people.
mhm,
I think this is again where domain is so important to incorporate, is that the reality of the situation is depending on who you're choosing to extend that, new
mhm.
empowered no to, they might not receive that no the
Mhm.
way that the
That
person playing
yeah,
the game receives it. And so
probably not.
having the understanding that how someone else feels about your no belongs to them,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
your no is in your domain because it's
Mhm.
authentically
What's it?
something you're
Yeah,
not available for,
yeah.
and being empowered just in your truth, and knowing that they have their own truth. and it's not
Mhm.
yours to take on.
Mhm.
And so if you say no and they have a big upset about it, well, that's they're
Mhm.
upset and they're
Mhm.
gonna, they're responsible for moving through that. And your no is still a no. Your
Mhm.
no doesn't need to change from no to yes because of
Mhm.
their reaction or how they feel.
Mhm.
And again, just domain, it's just,
Yeah.
I love it.
And depending on the relationship and the context, you can then sit and listen to their upset.
Mm, mhm.
Yeah.
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 Curiosity
Don't
is
take
equally
any of
important.
this as an excuse to be a jerk.
Sure. I hope
'Cause
nobody's
I've seen that happen.
misinterpreting us today to do that. I hope they're not
I have
thinking,
seen that happen. It's like, "Well, it's your domain, blah, blah, blah," like, "What?
"Oh,
Don't be a
sure, sure,
jerk,"
yeah, weaponizing it."
Yeah,
Well, that's
weaponizing it. Yeah,
I've heard
yeah.
that used like, "Well, I'm not responsible for your," yeah, "I'm not
I'm not
responsible for your
responsible for your
feelings."
feelings. Yeah,
It's
well,
like, but that's mean. Yes, that's
yeah,
true, but you don't have to
yeah,
say it like that. Like,
yeah,
you don't
yeah,
have to, it's not, yeah, it shouldn't. Don't use it as an attack.
yeah,
Uh, I try not to
yeah,
use that word should.
yeah.
I hear myself saying it all the time now. Don't use your domain as a means for attacking someone else. It's really about empowering yourself to stand in
Yeah,
your truth and allow them to
yeah,
have their own as well.
yeah, yeah, I think that's really what it's about because when I found that when I respect my domain, which means that I take responsibility for those things that are in I take responsibility for my body, I take responsibility for my feelings, for my thoughts, then I'm gonna automatically have more respect for yours and more compassion for yours. It
Mhm,
just comes with the territory. Um, and and ultimately, that's what it's about. It's about respecting your right to have your desires and your feelings and stuff, and um, and and taking responsibility for what's in mine,
mhm.
and I'll automatically have more respect for what's in yours. Yeah.
Yeah, and like we talked about early in the beginning of this, you know, episode here, like, it's a practice.
Mhm.
It's a lifelong,
Mhm.
it's work. It is growth, and it is, it is not something that you're just gonna be like, "Oh, cool, I watched this video and I've got it down and I'm
Yeah.
just gonna incorporate it." Like, with any path, I don't know if you resonate with, like, some of those memes where, like, growth isn't a line chart, it's like a spiral, and it's like, or sometimes you go down and up or down and up, but, like, it's not always going to be, a flower-filled pasture that you're just frolicking
No.
through as you're applying, domain and consent into your interactions.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you can genuinely go deep into your own domain, explore what's in there, get
Mhm.
comfortable with what's in there,
Mhm.
and be able to discern what doesn't belong in there,
Mhm.
I think, like you said, inevitably you're going to take that understanding, that wisdom, and apply it to other people's domains now that you
Mhm.
understand your own.
Mhm.
And that's going to be extremely helpful in interacting with others
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
minimizing suffering that we create for ourselves.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So I'd love to talk a little bit about what you're working on now.
Mm.
You've created this beautiful reframe for consent and this structure for how to apply it to your life. And it's, I mean, again, I can't underemphasize how impactful.
Mm.
I mean, I'm not, I
Thank
guess
you.
overemphasize. I can't
Thank you.
overemphasize. Um, I don't want to underemphasize. It's been so incredibly impactful for my life, my partner, I have a 9-year-old who I'm teaching these things to and
Mhm.
empowering him to have, this understanding. And, yeah, I'm very curious to know what you're working on. What else?
Mm.
How are you
Thanks.
spending your time? How are you bringing, this work and maybe new work to the world?
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. Um, these days, I'm no longer in private practice. I'm no longer seeing private clients, but I'm mostly training people at the School of Consent to take this work out. So we have a 5-day professional training, which happens all over the world, and we now have 7 faculty who are teaching that besides me, so, um, I'm supporting them and working on that. And we also have people trained to offer a 2 or 3-day workshop that's available to the general public, and we have about 50 of those people all around the world. So that's mostly what I'm doing. The book is out and done, and I I do things like this to just get the word out, and yeah. Yeah, that's mostly what I'm doing,
Anything
and
you'd
playing
like
with my
to
grandkids.
accomplish? Anything do you have any goals? Any things that you'd like to, and any cherries on top of the sundae, or, like
Mm,
anything that you're wanting to accomplish that you haven't already?
retire.
What a great answer. What a great answer.
I have discovered I have discovered I'm 75 now. I've discovered that, oh, that's why people talk about retiring. Because I never was interested in it until the last year, so I'm like,
Mm,
"Oh, you know what? I'd like to garden a little more."
mm. Yeah, tell me more about what retirement looks like for you. What
Yeah.
does that mean to you?
That means,
Like, paint a
having
picture.
less responsibility
Okay.
and doing only the things that sound fun.
Mm,
So for example, a friend of mine and I just taught a week at Esalen, which is a retreat center in Northern California. Really great, very easy, very fun because they take care of everything. You just show up and teach and they send you a check. It's really easy. So things like that that are one off and fun and stuff, I still enjoy teaching, but I'm no longer responsible for developing the curriculum and keep all that
mm,
stuff going. Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah. It it I do enjoy these kinds of conversations, and I do enjoy, um, thinking about and supporting the work and noticing, "Oh, this applies here, I never saw this here," or, I'm just in the last year, for example, I've gotten much more clear on what the role of this work is in helping people in a difficult world.
hmm,
And I've gotten more clear on, wow, just teaching people to take turns, like we talked about in the earlier call, that's huge. And if that's the center of my work, then that's the piece that I can bring to the table.
hmm,
Other people will have other things. Other people will be experts on dealing with social justice and oppression and racism and sexism and all kinds of things and, you know, late stage capitalism and everything. Like there are people who are really good at that. And there are people who are learning that and learning how to do that. And I can support those movements. And I have one little piece to bring to the table here. And I'm the one who can do this.
hmm,
And that is to support people to learn how to take turns so that they can nourish themselves, and in particular, take turns in the ways that the Wheel of Consent does, so that they can nourish themselves. Yeah. So that's what has become more clear in the last year. That was not as succinct, not as, clear to me as before. Yeah.
I hear you. Yeah, that's beautiful. I think the simplicity of it is, part of the beauty
Mhm.
of its, it doesn't have to be you don't have to save the world,
Yeah, and
right?
what I'm doing does save the world, so
Right, exactly, but, yeah,
just
yeah,
it
both
saves
things,
that
right?
yeah.
Right,
Yes,
like,
that's you're absolutely right. I don't have to save the world,
and you
and
are, like,
and my little drop is one little drop
mhm,
in the whole waterfall,
right,
and and I am the only one who can be my drop. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
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 absolutely.
and thank God for all the other drops.
Yeah,
Thank God.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank God you don't have to be all those drops.
No, nobody can be. Yeah.
Right. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of people with that mindset of,
Yeah.
I have to be this and I have to be so much more than,
Mm,
we have capacity for.
mm,
Um,
yeah.
so I
That's
just
in their
gotta,
domain. They can deal with that.
yes, the people pleasing is just something that I run into a lot with my
Sure.
clients, and
Sure.
it's rampant in our
Oh,
society
sure.
of,
Yeah. Yeah.
bypassing yourself for what you perceive to be the benefit of others, and for all sorts of different reasons. And so I love the simplicity of
Mm-hmm.
just, I'm just going to do what I know I can do, and I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
do it well, and I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
show up and keep dropping that drop in the
Mm-hmm.
waterfall,
Mm-hmm.
and trust that other people are going to do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the drop that you're dropping in the waterfall also helps others to do
Mm-hmm.
that too. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really like a perfect, like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, full circle
Mm-hmm.
process there.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Final question for you. Unless you have more things, definitely we can chit chat for the whole day. I would
Yeah.
love. Uh, but my final question that I have, that I like to close the podcast with, doesn't mean that we have to close, but the one question I want to make sure that I ask is, I'm going to set the stage first. Imagine, imagine every person, every human, every sentient being on our planet is tuning into this episode. Everybody's listening, and you have the opportunity to speak to everyone. What message would you like for people to hear? What would you like for people to understand or take away from this moment that you have to reach everyone at
Hmm.
once?
And you're just gonna spring this on me?
That's right.
Hmm. I think it's that you deserve care and compassion,
Mm,
and so does everybody else.
perfect. Simple. Love it. And I agree. I will agree.
Mhm.
Uh, I believe that as well. Um, yeah, incredible. Thank you so much. Thank you
You are
for,
so welcome. It's fun talking.
yeah, thanks for taking
Yeah.
the time to be here. And yeah, we'll link all the things in the description. And anyone that's the last question, I guess, is anyone that's wanting to get involved. We're going to link School of Consent. Is that the best place? Is that the best way for
Mhm.
people to get
Also,
involved?
yeah, that's the best place. And there's a page on there about the Wheel of Consent that just and gives 8 hours of free video on how to play it and how to do it. You can buy the book. There's links there to get the book. You can also go to bettymartin.org, and same thing. There's classes, and you can buy the book, and there's a whole bunch of free video. So you can learn as much about this as you want for free, and that's important.
Hmm.
And you can also spend some money and go to a workshop. You can spend some money and get the book. You can spend some money and see different practitioners. Uh, yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, we'll link bettymartin.org as well in the
Okay.
description.
Okay.
Again, thank you so much. Thank you
You
for
are so
being here.
welcome. You're
Thank
so
you everybody
welcome.
for listening. And yeah,
See you next
until
time.
next time.
This has been the Do You Feel Heard podcast. If you're interested in resources that will help you move through conflict, you can go to doyoufeelheard.com, where we have tools for individuals and couples.